The following is brought to you in partnership by Symbol. Symbol is a new sports marketplace where you can trade shares of professional teams like stocks. You love sports. You interested in fantasy sports without the weekly annoyance of fantasy league upkeep? Then Symbol's the app for you. With Symbol, fantasy sports is going to a whole other level. How it works is simple. You buy Symbol shares for your favorite sim teams on the app. When your sim team wins, you get automatic cash deposits, and you don't lose any money when they lose. That's it. So if you follow trends across football, basketball, hockey, and coming soon baseball, and you think your team is a sleeper, simply invest in your favorite sim teams on Symbol and watch your virtual portfolio prove you right or wrong. And if you want to get in on the action right away, Vendetta Sports Media's got you covered. Go to symbol.app/Vendetta and use our exclusive promo code Vendetta, and you'll get a $10 bonus when making your first deposit. Symbol, taking fantasy sports to a whole other level.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Draft Busters podcast here on Vendetta Sports Media. I'm your host, Jeremy Rinaldi, alongside of Trey, and today we have special guest Zac Thomas, quarterback of Appalachian State. Zac, how's it going, man?
Hey, it's going good. How are y'all doing?
Good. Thanks for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's just jump right into it. Trey, do you want to go first? Or?
Yeah. I think the first time I remember seeing you was against Penn State in 2018. That was sort of a game where, as I sort of try to do this thing where if I'm watching a small school, does someone stand out against a school like Penn State? And you did just that. You took them to overtime. I guess my sort of question is, does that game, does it bother you? Did you feel like I belong here now? Was that game sort of important for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in all of my career, if you look back, that was probably the most important game that I played in as a player. You know, it kind of set the stage for me and set the expectations high. Like you said, we competed well. We took them into overtime, and that was my first start. So you go into that game with a lot of pressure. You go in trying to exceed what Taylor Lamb did the years before I was doing. And so, you know, the bar was set high, and that was something that I knew in my heart that I could do. It was just a time that I needed to show the rest of college football that I could do. And so, you know, I went into that game just hoping for the best, and we competed really well. And, you know, I wish we could have won that game. But at the end of the day, I earned a lot of respect from my coaches and from the players and from just the organization for football and fans. And so that was the best thing that could have happened to me and just set the bar high for me just so I could compete for the 3 years I was a starter.
Yeah, there's something to be said for first impressions, right? So when you go out there and you don't have to say this part, but you absolutely outperformed Trace McSorley, who got drafted. So to me, it was one of those things like, hey, this guy belongs. Let's see what he can do the rest of his college career.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and you had an amazing 2018 season. You're the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year, which we'll get into a little more. My first question is, so you're a two-star recruit coming out of Hewitt-Trussville. So why'd you choose App State?
So yeah, I kind of had a little funny recruiting story. So, you know, my senior year is when everything started picking up heavy for me. We were doing really well my senior year in football. And so I had my top three, and App State was actually not in my top three. And so it's probably about the sixth game of the year. We're playing the Hoover Buccaneers, and I broke my leg. So at that point, you know, all my offers had been stripped. So, you know, I kind of went to a low place, and you know, I still wanted to play college football. That was still a dream of mine that I wanted to fulfill. And so the only place at that time that still had interest in me and that wanted me to play was Jacksonville State, which is in the OVC, which is in Alabama. So I committed there. Took a couple of visits up there, and, you know, there was always something in the back of my head telling me that this isn't the place for me. I just felt like I didn't belong there. There was somewhere else out there that needed me more than Jacksonville State did. And so App State had a quarterback leave and went to Iowa State. And when they did, Coach Ponce, which is the OC at App State now, called me and came down and took a home visit. And then I went up there and took an official visit and loved it and committed and fell in love with the place.
Would you say the college win-loss record for a quarterback matters? Because there have been quarterbacks in the past like Josh Allen who has succeeded at the NFL level, but Wyoming didn't necessarily win a ton. You have a pretty prestigious win-loss record. App State won a lot of games with you as their quarterback. Is that something you take pride in? Is that something that maybe matters more than people are really suggest coming into the NFL?
Yeah, I take pride in it just because as a quarterback, you're supposed to be the leader of the team. You're supposed to have everyone behind you. And everyone looks at you when things are going good, and everyone looks at you when things are going bad. And how many games that we won? No, it wasn't just because of me. It was because of the team that we had. And I just think that shows you the kind of leadership not only that I had, but the team had, and just the work that we put in, and just how we were always on the same page. And so I think that shows a lot as a quarterback, and as anyone on that team, just shows a lot that how much we love the game of football and how much work we were willing to put in. So I think it does play a huge role into it. And I think at the next level that can translate.
Yeah. So, and one question I wanted to ask you is, so you won all 3 of the bowl games that you started in throughout your college career. What does that say about, how you're able to perform under, clutch moments?
Yeah, we kind of had some tricky bowl games because the last 2 that we played in, we didn't have a head coach. Both of our coaching staff left the prior 2 years. And so I think it just shows you the type of team that we had at App State. I mean, I think it just shows you the kind of players that App State recruits. And I think it just shows you no matter who's behind us, coaching us, that we're just going to go out there and win. And that was something, when a coach leaves, yeah, it's devastating, but you're still in this to win championships. And that's why we went to App State. Just basically the torch was passed down from the older generations. And so when I first got there, the first priority was winning. That was winning in the classroom, winning on the field, and winning off the field. And so that's something that they instill in you from the day one. And so when you leave, you're just passing the torch on to the younger generation just to keep winning.
The term the it quality gets thrown out a lot with quarterbacks. What would you say maybe are some of the intangibles that you bring to the table that maybe somebody else doesn't?
Yeah, I think I bring a lot to the table. I think first and what stands out most to me is my toughness. I've always been battled throughout my whole life, whether that was in life or that was on the football field. And, when the way I grew up, I had an older brother that was 8 years older than me. So toughness was a key part of me and how I grew up. And, he always pushed me. Obviously, when he's a lot bigger and stronger than I was when I was little, but he always pushed me because he saw potential in me when I didn't. And I think the biggest quality that I think I have as an athlete and as anyone can say is just a competitor, whether that's on the field or off the field, in the weight room, running sprints, whatever I'm going to do, I'm always going to compete to my fullest and just try to give it all I can, not only for myself, but for the team. And I think that sets me apart from anybody else because I know that at the end of the day, no one's going to compete harder than I compete.
Yeah. And when watching your game, it's very evident that you're a dynamic, dual threat quarterback. You can run and you're very accurate as a passer. Did you model any aspect of your game as a quarterback based on an NFL quarterback?
I get asked that question a lot, and I didn't really model my game after anyone. I kind of want to be myself. I want to set a name for myself, and when the younger generation looks up, I want them to realize that I'm Zac, not no one else. But I definitely watch NFL quarterbacks. It's hard not to watch whenever you're watching Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. When you're watching all the good quarterbacks, you try to pick up little bits and pieces that they're doing. Obviously, they're successful. They're in the NFL and some of the best athletes in the world. And so, you kind of watch it and you kind of pick up nuts and bolts from here and there. And you just you see how they read defense. You see how they make tight throws. You see how they do little things. And you don't see them getting in trouble off the field. You see them they have a goal in sight, and that's what they're doing, and they're on a straight line for that. And so you kind of pick up little things here and there just to model your game after.
Give me a player that you played against that maybe you're like, wow, why isn't this guy getting any buzz? Or maybe it could be somebody in the conference or even on your team. I remember your running back, Jalen Moore. I couldn't believe he had no buzz. Darrington Evans got drafted.
Evans as well, yeah.
Give me somebody that you're like, wow, how is this guy that he's awesome when I played against him, but there's no buzz on him for whatever reason?
That's a difficult question. Playing at, we had a lot of good players. Obviously, we don't send a lot of people to the league like most of your schools do, but we always win. And I think that's the key point. And, I played against a lot of good players. And like you said, Darrington, obviously he got drafted. But I think you hit it on Jalen Moore. I think he was probably one of the freakish athletes I've ever seen. I mean, he passed everything that I could have seen. I mean, the way that he attacked the weight room, the way he attacked on the field, he did get a shot, but, he got put on IR and got released. But, I think he was just for App State. I mean, he'll probably go down as one of the best running backs to ever do it. And he was just a heck of a player.
So in terms of the way you play the game, I was just curious to see, do you have like a favorite kind of play you guys ran, or do you have a favorite route that you like to throw to, whether that could be, a quarterback draw, or if you like throwing the deep ball, or even just a slant pattern?
Yeah, I was a big, we always did a lot of play action. So we would always, try fake inside zone. You'd have a single route to the short side of the field, and on the backside, we'd call it hook concept, which is just a bender and a curl. And that was something as a quarterback, that was something for me easy to read, and it always became big plays for us. And so that was always probably one of my favorite plays to throw against, because no matter what you do, we have athletes everywhere. Someone's going to get open, whether that's, we're throwing the single route, we're throwing the bender over the middle, we're throwing a curl. It's a hard play to defend. And so I think as a quarterback, that's what we had most success with.
There's no combine this year, and I'm upset about it, but I can only imagine how you feel having no opportunity to go to the combine and show off your skill set. What are the things that you're doing this offseason to maybe get some buzz from other teams? Is social media part of it? I know you're wearing the Manning Passing Academy hat. What are the things you're doing pre-draft to try to get yourself noticed?
Yeah, so, when we first got into this process, I went down to Tropical Bowl, competed in that, and then I went to the CGS All-Star Game and competed in that, and great events. It was a chance for you to get in front of scouts during this pandemic and get your name out there, and just for the scouts to look at you and basically just have a conversation with them. And then since then, I've been in New Jersey training basically every day, just getting after it and trying to post as much stuff on social media as I can. But at the end of the day, I think Pro Day has a big weighing for us. Obviously, like you hit it on the head, no combine. So that gives even more to the Pro Day. So now basically for about 2 months, been training for Pro Day. And so we have Pro Day April 1st. And so basically laying it all on the line for Pro Day and just giving it all I got.
Yeah, so I don't want to cut you off, Jeremy, but I want to expand into that. Is social media important? Because there was a story leaked out the other day that the Red Sox used their Rule 5 pick because they scouted them on Instagram. Is that important for you to get clips out of yourself like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. Obviously, in this day and age, social media is a big presence in our generation, and basically everything that you do is going to be on social media. And so I think that I'm training with this guy up here, Coach Tony, and I think he does a phenomenal job up here of just posting things on social media, whether that's if you want to retweet it or post it on your story. It's a way for you to get yourself out there. And it always gets reposted. Someone's always looking at it. So he does a fantastic job of just getting yourself out there and showing what you're working on, showing how good you've gotten from when you first started until now. So he's done a great job of getting that out there. And basically whenever he does that, I just retweet it or just post it on my story, just hoping that, it crosses something. And, there's a lot of people out here in the world and they have a lot of connections, and maybe someone sees it and they like it and they send it to someone else. And so, you never know what's going to happen in this day and age with social media. So it's just another way for you to benefit yourself.
Yeah. And my next question is there any head coach or offensive coordinator whose system in the NFL you think you'd fit well in?
To be honest, man, I don't know. It's always been a dream of mine to play in the NFL. So to be honest, I don't really care who drafts me. I just want to get the chance and the opportunity to go out there and show my skill set. So, I mean, I have no teams that I want to go to. I'm willing to go to any team and just go out there and show them what I have and just compete every day.
Have you gotten any weird questions from teams? You don't necessarily have to share, but I'm always fascinated by those stories that come out. Team X asked the most ridiculous question of all time. Have you gotten any of that stuff yet?
You kind of get some weird questions, and I think at the same time they're just trying to throw you off just to see where you're at and then come back right at you with a difficult question. So you kind of get those questions a lot. I think it's just probably try and test your intelligence, and at the same time, just seeing where your mind's at.
Yeah, and one more question for me, Trey. I don't know if you have any
That's all
other
I got.
questions, but I know you talked about your toughness earlier. So besides that, what would you bring to an NFL team?
I think I bring a lot. I think first off, as quarterback, you got to be a leader. And I think the kind of player that I am, I'm not your hoorah guy that's going to go out there and yell at you and tell you what you messed up on and basically embarrass you in front of your teammates. I'm kind of a lead by example guy. Go out there, just compete every day, whether that's in the weight room, on the field, on the film room, wherever we're at, just lead by example. And if you got a question or I see something that maybe I didn't like, pull you to the side, see what you were thinking, see what I was thinking, and just work to make the solution better. And just the way I prepare for anything, I'm always going to give it 100% because at the end of the day, in my mind, I only get one shot at this. So I'm going to give it my all. And just I'm going to prepare like it's my last chance and just go out there and compete basically every day to be the best version of myself that I can be.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the questions we have. So again, Zac, thanks for coming on and talking with us. It's great talking to you. Good luck in the future. Definitely for your pro day on April 1st. Good luck. And on draft night, good luck. And hopefully we'll hear about you in the league, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on. All right.
That was Zac Thomas. Good guy. I didn't want to necessarily say this during the interview, and I guess we're keeping this in the episode, but that 2018 Penn State game is what made me notice him. And I didn't want to necessarily say this to him because obviously he's not going to respond back to it. But I think it was a joke that Trace McSorley got drafted. And there was no question, if you watch that game, that Zac Thomas, even as a younger player, was the much better prospect.
Yeah, and I mean, he's looked good for 3 years. I mean, that was his first start, he said. I didn't know that was his first start, but I mean, he was Sun Belt Offense Player of the Year in his first season as a starting quarterback. That's very impressive. The Sun Belt, that's not a bad conference. Like them
also,
and
Carolina was legit this year.
Exactly. So he's played great competition for his past 3 years, and he's performed very well. There's going to be questions about his size. I think he's just 6'1", but I mean, he's a dual threat quarterback, and I think with the right fit, I think he could definitely stick in the league.
Mobility more and more is becoming not like, it's okay if you don't have it.
Yeah.
You got to have it.
You got to have it.
Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, all the young quarterbacks that are coming into the league have a little bit of mobility. They don't have to be run first, but they can at least move. And Zac Thomas absolutely has that component to his game.
And also, I like how he's not a flashy guy. He talked about he's a leader by example. He doesn't want to, take over and be the face of this, face of that. I think it's interesting how, he talked about that concept that they ran on offense as opposed to like, I love throwing the deep ball or, I love the quarterback draw. I think that kind of speaks volumes to who he is as a character as well.
Yeah, and I'm not blowing smoke here either because I just kind of say what I think. I was excited when you got this interview because he is one of my, hey, we got to keep an eye on this guy because he can play.
Yeah, no, it's definitely awesome that we got him on. Hopefully we'll have another one next week. I'm in talks with the player right now, so hopefully we can get that one for next week. For right now, though, we're going to jump into one more segment on the Draft Busters podcast. We're going to discuss the 2021 NFL Draft cornerback class. There's been some buzz in the past week. Everyone is always,
now there's buzz. That's weird.
Everyone's always discussing who the top is, whether it's Farley or Horn or Surtain. But there was news the past week where Eric Stokes, Georgia's cornerback, ran a 4.25 40. I'll let you start with.
I'm starting. Eric Stokes is, and people can go back into my college notes from this year. I do all the NFL draft stock report notes. Every time Georgia plays, I pretty much have something to say on Eric Stokes. I didn't quite understand why nobody seems to talk about him ever. To me, and people in the Slack disagreed, I think he's the second best cornerback in the draft, and I can be argued out of 2. I'll put him at 3 if someone is willing to say J.C. Horn's better. I'm willing to listen to that one. But this idea that Eric Stokes is like QB9, QB10, QB11 is just flat out laughable. And one of the biggest things with him is I knew how physical he is, because if you watch any of his tape, he beats people up. He really does. At the catch point, he's awesome.
Very physical.
He's not going to lose at the catch point. I actually didn't know how fast he was. I thought he was fast, but I wasn't 100% sure. 4.25. That's like, when I saw that number, I was like, oh boy, we got something here. Cause I thought he was fast. I didn't know he was this fast.
I think it's interesting. I'm going to go a little different route. I think it's just funny how now people stop talking about Tyson Campbell, the other corner for Georgia.
And I like Tyson Campbell.
Tyson Campbell's a good player too, but I think it's funny how people I don't know, I just see it on Twitter. They just immediately stop talking about them. And then they're like, oh, I was always on this guy, when they really weren't. And so
can I take like a 30-second side tangent?
Go ahead.
I've been team Kyle Pitts since last year.
We talked about this in the Slack. Yeah. And so
I've been team Kyle Pitts since last year. I went on this show not how many months ago?
That was the first episode in
what was
December.
That? Yeah. I said he's the best player in the draft. Now people think he's
everyone's
really good.
like, all right,
Unbelievable.
I think it's funny too, because in my preseason cornerback rankings, my rankings were, I had Surtain at 1, I had Shaun Wade at 2, Farley at 3, Horn at 4, and Stokes at 5. Minus Shaun Wade, those they have not changed. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that, to be honest, because everyone's been changing there. Everyone's had this guy here, this guy there, but those have been my top guys from the start. So
I would encourage people to do this, because a lot of Stokes' production this year, like he had a pick against South Carolina. Who cares? He had a pick against Tennessee. Yeah, he beat up Florida. Cool. But when he was one-on-one against Denzel Mims, who was a second-round pick this year, he kicked the snot out of him. And I don't think Denzel Mims won a single route against him.
I don't think he had a reception in that game. That was the bowl game, right?
That was the Sugar Bowl.
Pretty sure he didn't.
And I know Georgia was significantly better than Baylor, like the on paper talent. I get that. But Matt Rule was still there. And Denzel Mims was a legit prospect. And he just kicked the shit out of him the entire game.
So, I mean, if we're going to go into cornerbacks just a little bit deeper, I mean, do you got anyone else? I watched Kelvin Joseph, the one from Kentucky.
I have him in my notes too. He had an interception against Tennessee. He looks really, really long. He's good.
I don't know why I didn't hear about, like, I'm always up front. Like, I did not hear about him at all. And so, like, in the past month was the first time I was hearing about him. So I was like, I got to watch this kid. And I mean,
I didn't watch a ton of Kentucky. I saw them play Tennessee, and he really stood out to me.
Yeah. I mean, he's not the most physical.
Let me pull up the list quick, just so I don't miss anybody.
His ball skills are just incredible. The way he's able to just read routes so easily. And I believe I tweeted a clip of, him in zone coverage against Devontae Smith. I mean, he absolutely just picked him right off his route, and he ended up getting an interception in the end zone in that game. I mean, it just looked really easy for him. I know he has off the field concerns though. He went to LSU originally, and he transferred into Kentucky. So, I mean, there's off the field concerns with him. I forget what they were, but he's a player.
Yeah. I didn't see a ton of Northwestern this year, but I did think Newsome against Ohio State looked really good.
Newsome's my cornerback 5. He's right after Stokes for me.
I do want to bring up maybe a couple sleepers. I'm just kind of going through the list here. I know Paulson Adebo his stock has gone down, but there have been times where he's looked really awesome.
Just flashes, yeah.
Trying to bring up a couple. Asante Samuel Jr., I don't think you're going to miss there.
No,
Florida State, that entire program's just a total mess. And maybe this is stupid of me, but I couldn't believe when people were like, oh, Cam Akers, who cares? Cam Akers is awesome.
They still bring some pretty good prospects every year.
Just because Florida State's bad doesn't mean Asante Samuel's bad. I do want to bring up the other South Carolina corner, because I think Horn's good.
Really? You like the other one?
Mukwamu's interesting to me.
I'm not.
He's so big. Like he is enormous. And there was a couple games this year He had I believe he had a 3 interception
Three-pick game, yeah.
I
That
forget
might have
who
been Tennessee.
was
or something like that.
against,
It might have been Tennessee.
but there have been times I'm like, that guy could be Richard Sherman. And he doesn't always play like it, but he's enormous and he does have great ball skills. I don't know how well he can move yet, but he's got something to him.
Yeah, I talked about Benjamin St. Juste in our Senior Bowl recap.
Miles
video.
Jones too, Texas A&M. Keep an eye on
Texas
him.
A&M, yeah. I haven't watched him. A sleeper that I wanted to talk about a little bit was Shakur Brown from Michigan State. I believe he led the league in interceptions this year. He's really going under the radar. He's a pretty good corner. I mean, he played pretty well in the Big Ten for Michigan State. They're a program I didn't get to watch them a ton live, so I did a little research myself on him. But I mean, similar to Kelvin Joseph, he's very, sticky on the receivers, and he's got great ball skills. And he makes it very tough for them to separate themselves from him. So Shakur Brown, maybe, I don't know if he's getting like day 2 buzz at all, but maybe round 4, that could be a good corner.
If people want to go back, not this past year because obviously he didn't play, but a year ago, Justin Ross out of Clemson, who I think is awesome. I think
hopefully he's
I don't want to. Yeah, it's hard to say because of his health stuff, but I think if he never got hurt, I think he's a round 1 wide receiver this year.
Yeah.
Miles Jones really did a hell of a job against him in the game against Clemson. If somebody wants to watch that tape, I would encourage them to do so because Justin Ross is no joke, and he played a hell of a game against him.
Yeah, I haven't watched Miles Jones at all, so there's some Texas A&M guys I like, which I guess I could talk about that in another video, but yeah.
Aaron Robinson at the Senior Bowl, I thought he had a good Senior Bowl. There's another UCF corner.
He's also up there for me, Aaron Robinson. I think he's around 9 or 10.
I don't remember the other UCF guy's name, but he had a really good day of practice. I'll have to go back through my notes.
Richie Grant, Senior Bowl.
Him.
Yeah, he's the safety. He's pretty good too.
I do want to bring up one more thing, and then we can kind of close this out.
Sure.
Help me understand the Farley hype. Now, I haven't seen a ton of Virginia Tech.
You don't like Farley?
I haven't seen a ton of Virginia Tech. I just don't understand how somebody could hammer the table for him and say, I am 100% confident that this guy is a round 1 corner and I have a multiple-time Pro Bowler on our hands for the next 10 years. Because I haven't seen it. Yes, he had one great, 2019 season. He had an awesome 2019 season, but the competition in the ACC isn't that great. The year before, he's a converted wide receiver. He kind of looks shaky. Yeah. He's all over the place. And then he didn't play this past year. So how do you know what you're getting here? I haven't seen enough.
So the thing that I like about him, and maybe this is a negative in the NFL, but it was a positive for him in college, is he's so aggressive. Like, I don't know if you know the safety for Syracuse, Andre Sisco. Like, everyone talks about how he's very aggressive, and it's kind of the same with Farley. Like, Farley's going to try to jump the route a lot of the times, but his recovery speed, did they release his 40 time? I think it was like 4.35 or something for Farley.
I did not see his time.
And all these times are iffy, but so his recovery speed's amazing. His, direction changing speeds and his ball skills are very good. I haven't watched him recently. I watched him over winter break, so a couple months ago, but he's not above Surtain for me just because we saw Surtain week in and week out just eliminate an SEC.
That's my thing on it. I have not seen enough of Caleb Farley to be like, we can take him over Patrick Surtain, who plays at Alabama and teams literally don't throw the ball to him.
I can't say that. And then, I love JC Horn. That was literally my sleeper in the preseason. So it's hard for me to put Farley over him, but I think I have Farley.
I won't put him above any of the SEC corners that I know. Yeah. I won't put him above Eric Stokes, who I saw him at Georgia ball out. I won't put him above JC Horn. I know he's got NFL bloodlines. I know how good he is.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, I'm not doing that. So, and he's another guy. We can talk about the opt-outs and, hey, players can do what they want or whatever. I would have loved to see him play this year.
The opt-outs hurt.
To me, he was not Jamar Chase going out there catching 20 touchdowns, being a
Chase was probably the only exception.
If Jamar Chase didn't want to play this year, I don't care. I wanted to see Caleb Farley.
Yeah, and it's I mean, Micah Parsons is sliding down.
I didn't need to see
Same
Micah
with
Parsons
Rousseau.
either, though. I saw plenty of Micah Parsons. That he was no concern of mine. If the only thing I need to see of Micah Parsons is the second he hits somebody, they go down every single time.
Parsons is still at the top of the linebacker list for me. I know he's dropped a couple people.
And that's the other thing. There's no linebackers. So you don't get Parsons. You're sitting there waiting a while. You don't get Farley. Who cares?
Round, probably, yeah.
I can trade down and get another corner that's really good.
Yeah. And then if we're talking opt-outs, same thing with Gregory Rousseau. He kind of hurt his stock a little bit, I guess, because now they're talking Jalen Phillips from Miami.
Yeah. I think Quincy Roche is pretty good.
You do? Yeah, I liked him in the preseason. Phillips looked a little better, but Phillips has injury concerns.
He's not as flashy, but he gets after you.
Yeah. All right, so that's pretty much going to wrap up this episode of the Draft Buzzers podcast. We want to thank Zac Thomas once again for coming on and doing this interview. You got any closing remarks?
No, the NFL draft's coming up. I don't necessarily have a plan content-wise. I'm going to continue to do the mailbag stuff.
Yeah, so
I'm going to do the NFL draft war rooms, posts. Other than that, we'll see.
Yeah, so now that we got this interview out of the way, I'm going to be posting my quarterback ranking soon, and then I'll just go by position. I'm working on like my final big board right now, just so I can, make sure everything.
I am so busy. This is the, I mean, I'm in the loop, but this is the most out of the loop I've been with an NFL draft in so long. So
that's how I feel about March Madness this year.
You take the keys, do your thing.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you for supporting the site. For those of you who like and subscribe to these videos, if you haven't, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. The site's doing very well right now. The partnership with Symbol. We also have some other news behind the scenes. So thank you guys for the support. And that's going to do it. We'll see you guys in the next episode.